the right club. Be the right club today.
Johnny, that's better than most.
How about in?
That is better than most. Better than most.
Expect anything different?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up live show, presented as always by our friends at High Noon. Solly here, DJ Pie is here. Hello, Pie Man.
Hello, guys. Hello. Glad to be with you.
Glorious, wonderful, amazing Saturday of Masters play. Neil Schuster's here to help us recap. Hello, Neil.
Good to see you.
That's all he's got. We got some
It's still
guests on
timely.
soon.
It still works.
We're going to talk with KVV here shortly, who is, of course, on the grounds. I'm sure saw a bunch of wonderful stuff today out at the Masters. This is, of course, the live show is brought to you by our friends at High Noon. It is here, the High Noon Tequila Seltzer made with real Blanco tequila and real juice. I would definitely say tequila is my go-to liquor. Now my favorite seltzer has an option for all other tequila lovers out there. It's available in 4 bright, crisp flavors. Strawberry is my favorite, and usually I try to save those ones, but I needed to pick me up today, guys. I'm just bummed. I'm just deflated after everything we've seen happen with the weather. There's lime, there's grapefruit, there's passion fruit. They're, of course, only 100 calories. They're gluten-free. There's no added sugar. They have been on the shelves for about a month now in a lot of various locations. They are rolling out countrywide. Over the next 2 months, they are fully available nationwide by May 1st, just in time for summer. You can find High Noon Tequila at Drizzly or your local convenience or liquor store, or visit highnoonspirits.com to find it near you. Thank you to them for bringing us this show all week long. Oh, guys, what a bummer. What a bummer.
It is a bummer. It's 2 days in a row. I was lamenting to you guys that Masters weekend, you get your chores done. Went for a run, was on the couch a little too much yesterday. You go get some supplies, ready to hunker down, hit the couch. 17 minutes in, and you hear the air horn. It's tough. And I think I'm hoping that makes tomorrow just an epic, memorable day of golf. But I worry about not being able to pace myself, because that's a personal, I lack self-control. I'm gonna have too many streams going. It's just gonna be a lot tomorrow. So our pacing's a little off right now. The weather is a bummer.
Yeah, I feel like I'm adopting a tour player's mindset this week. Can't do anything about the weather. We're just we're gonna be ready to go when the time is right. Time hasn't been right so far, so we're just gonna We're gonna get something to eat. Stay loose, maybe stretch, see what the team's got going on, maybe do a crossword puzzle. Things like that. Just keep the brain occupied, and I think when it's time to go, we'll be ready. I think tomorrow's gonna be a hell of a day.
So as we're sitting here, the leaders are on the 7th green. Is it a 2-man race? Let's just start with that. Is Brooks Koepka or Jon Rahm going to win the Masters?
I would say yes, and I think it is specifically because they've almost been crowned by not having to play as much in this weather.
Yeah, I think when the horn blew,
Brooks has not had to play much in this weather.
Well, yeah, but just for both of them, they just have so much more room to run if they come out tomorrow and the course is a little bit, friendlier. I don't know what to call it, but a lot of the guys on the course right now are absolutely battling, and it's not going real well.
Yeah, I think as soon as the horn blew, it became a 2-man race. I think if they would have stayed out there this afternoon for another 6-7 holes, obviously they couldn't do that with the way the greens were pooling up and all of that. But if they would have stayed out there, I think, there's the potential for disaster. Maybe you catch one of those slippery drivers and you hit it in a bad spot and you wedge out poorly and you make a triple somewhere. But really good weather tomorrow. I mean, I don't see either of those guys going out and shooting 78,
There's one professional golfer within 8 shots of Brooks Koepka right now. And granted, he's got a somewhat lengthy par putt on 7 when they come back, and Rahm's got a good look at birdie. So we could be looking at a 2-shot swing. Let's call it a 3-shot lead now, as of right now, just based on where they're putting from. And as again, I feel like I've clarified this 8 times. I don't feel like I'm rooting against Brooks, but I am rooting for a great showdown. And as somebody kind of rooting for Brooks to come a little bit backwards, so we get this duel and we don't get a runaway. I mean, just none of that's happening. It's not happening at all when you watch him play golf. He drives one way right on 5, hits the perfect, sensible shot to the front of the green, cleans up an easy 2-putt par. It's just all easy 2-putt pars. Birdie's the second hole. I've said this like on every night this week, like, dude, it's going to be 2 different tournaments. It's going to be the nice sunny tournament, and then it's going to be the shit show. And who knows how well he's going to handle it. Not saying he couldn't handle it, but it's just going to be a totally different variable. And he came out and looked the exact same he has looked through 2 days, and it's still pretty scary.
He looked phenomenal today, and I'm with you. I think we can talk a lot more Brooks kind of as the show goes on here, but I'm so there's got to be part of you that's rooting for a 6-shot lead, right? I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of 54-hole jokes. I'm going to be Andre the Giant. Please, no more 54-hole jokes. I can't do it. But the one live thing I am kind of here for is the 6-shot lead, 54-hole lead at the Masters, and come what may, because that is extremely poetic.
It was more the same from what Harry Higgs was talking about last night. Very patient golf from Brooks through 6.5, almost 7 holes. It looks really, really patient.
Rahm, just, I don't know what to take away from this other than that was some really, really shitty weather and some very difficult conditions to play golf in. Again, something we talked about going all the way back to the preview show. No flexibility in the tee boxes made a lot of these holes play really, really freaking long today. In the morning round, finishing up of round 2, we saw tons of dudes hitting lumber up into the 18th green, guys hitting drivers 237 yards up into the wind, uphill, and in the full shit of the rainstorm on 18. We saw Morikawa hit, I don't know what the wood he's hitting into the par 3 fourth. He hit wood into the 5th green today as well. Just a completely flipped golf course. And as someone who struggles and is not a mutter and struggles in rainy conditions, I cannot imagine playing that golf course at 7,500 yards in those conditions.
Can I ask you guys a question? We
Please.
lamented the weather earlier for me for the delay. What was the biggest bummer was I was pretty fascinated by the actual golf, though. Like, if it had just rained a little bit less, but it had rained all day, I am locked in on this tournament. Do you guys feel the same way, or is the rain no fun to watch for you?
I thought it was great. Watching that last group when we could watch them, and part of the disaster of today was not being able to watch them outside of, sitting on your laptop or on your TV, smart TV app or whatever for those first 6 holes was like, it was fantastic, especially once Brooks started getting the slippery club face and he blew that one way right on 5. And I mean, there's just so many more variables, but he just, like you said, Neil, he just stayed locked in and was looked methodical and looked patient and still did all that same stuff. I would have loved to see how long that was going to last, because I have a feeling it probably would have lasted all day. I mean, he's looked fucking awesome.
Well, it was wild watching. I don't know if you guys saw Cameron Young's 7th hole and some of the other shots that were happening. I mean, Cameron Young hit like a 160-yard drive off 7, just absolute duck hook into the trees. And some stuff was starting to happen out there. Dustin Johnson made a triple. Spieth made $1 million on 5 after driving it over into the trees. There was some weird shit happening to a lot of groups except for that final group and that final, those 2 guys at the top.
God, can I?
And I know you guys are big on apologies. I'd like to apologize for some of my Morikawa takes earlier in the week. He looked awesome today. He was hitting laser beams with that 5 wood, 7 wood, whatever that thing was, and it was much better than I thought it was going to be. So I don't know how long it would have lasted, but gotta call that one out.
So is he no longer the Dome golfer, or is it too early to say?
I didn't say that. We call him like we see him today, and we'll look at the body of evidence when we get back to HQ.
I don't want to. Oh,
speaking of
good morning,
Dome
good
golfers.
Hello, Kevin.
He's muted. Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
Hello, lads. I was muted in the deep in the Dome. Thank you for bringing me on. It was tough out there. Really, really tough.
Really tough.
I will say Morikawa did bogey the last 2 holes he played. I mean, he was looking like, all right, there's going to be a serious threat coming in here, but he did make, unfortunately, couldn't get in before the weather hit. He bogeyed the 6th hole and also bogeyed the 7th hole. So he is sitting at 5 under par. Guys, I did not have Patrick Cantlay, the tool man, being a total mutter and rising up the leaderboard. He birdied the 2nd hole, birdied the 3rd hole, birdied the 4th hole, and he is sitting at 5 under par. He is through 13 holes. He was in the thick of it for almost the entire day, and he is the dude sitting in a tie for 4th right now. Did not have that in my cards.
I mean, he projects a vibe of calmness, right? With maybe not in some of the stuff he says, but the way his demeanor on the course. So I wouldn't say it surprises me a ton, but he seems to I guess the surprising thing is, we've said this in the past, he does really well in birdie fest events when it's like, go out and get it, go make 1 million birdies. And that is not what we were seeing today. So I'm impressed with his play for sure.
So we have some breaking news coming in that from the Masters, they're updating the third round will resume Sunday at 8:30 a.m. CBS will air live coverage beginning at 8:30 a.m. through the conclusion of the third round. The final round is expected to begin at 12:30 p.m. off numbers 1 and 10 in pairings.
And they'll come back on at 5 p.m.
The live broadcast will remain 2 to 7 p.m. on CBS as originally scheduled. So if I'm reading that right, we have an hour and a half of coverage of the final round that will not be live on television, but I'm guessing the final pairing's probably going off number one sometime around 2 p.m. when coverage comes on tomorrow. So,
Okay.
How are we
And
still
it's
playing?
three.
golf
It's going to be
tournaments?
threesomes to finish the round, obviously, and then twosomes after that.
no, I think
we-
it's 3 all the way. It's gonna be
Three
If you're
in the
going off-
final round as well.
If you're going off 2 tees, you're playing threesomes.
Okay.
That's a general rule, I would say. But tough scene today with coverage, you got to say. It has been a week of just overloading, like a sensory blitzkrieg, as Brainol Chambly has said multiple times on TV, of trying to like watch golf on Masters.com. Like, it's an insane offering what they're able to bring you, and it really does seem like a flip that I can't really understand or explain as to why on Saturday they decided, like, hey, feature groups, like, we're going to put, Tiger's in the last group off 10T. We're going to put him in feature groups, but we're not going to put Koepka and Rahm, the two leaders in the tournament, on feature groups. And there was nowhere to watch them play golf the first 3 holes until they got to the holes 4 through 6 feed. It turns out CBS was taping and commenting live as this play was going on and planning to play this during the broadcast window when the rain delay hit, I guess, which is just another tough scene. It's just all these incredible steps forward that Augusta has taken with the Masters in terms of coverage, and it just seems like one really random middle finger that I don't think I understand the purpose of this. Can somebody else help me understand this or explain to the audience?
Just felt like a really bad throwback to like the mid 90s, where none of us knew what the front 9 looked like, and there was no real good explanation for it, and it was just a mystery. I can't really tell you. I had people in my mentions demanding that I go knock on Ridley's door. I demand answers. I probably won't do that, but thanks for the prompt.
I will say, not to be, just a nihilist about all this stuff, but they do this like every time. I mean, they do this every year. Like, this was actually like a pretty big step forward in the featured groups. I think Tiger last year was kind of the first time where it was just like, okay, the feature group everybody wants to watch, we're actually going to put that one on. Otherwise, it is just like so overly clever and so just like we're just going to be a little more reserved in our featured groups. Like, they do this stupid withholding stuff all the time, and so I don't know. Maybe I was just a little more prepared for it this year.
I guess I just still don't understand why, though. Like, that's
Sure.
the problem. Like, almost everything I can explain, I'm guessing there's something to do with, they knew there was going to be a delay, and I'm sure that these commercial slots for this, what's airing right now as we're talking, were sold for $1 gajillion a long time ago, and they needed a canned footage to be able to run the commercial. I'm sure it has something to do with contracts, like it always does. But man, that was pretty frustrating today. And of course, 15 minutes into the live telecast coming on the air, the horn blows, and we're done for the day. And it's tough. It's really
also
tough.
To that point, I would love it if they could expand the 4, 5, and 6 feed. It's 4, 5, and 6, or is it 3, 4, and 5 that they show?
4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6. Thank you. Show me 3
For sure.
Like, what are we doing? Like, I think it's 3, 4, and 5 would be the holes to show. 6 is, those 2 par 3s. That I think 4 is more interesting than 6 personally. But I would love to see every shot hit on number 3. That would be totally fine with me, and maybe help in this situation of, obviously I want to see the leaders from the start, but like, give them to me a little earlier in the round.
2 is like one of the best holes in the golf course too. I think I love watching dudes hit
Same.
pretty much every shot on the second hole. I love all the different pins on that hole, and it's obviously they're heavily featured in the feature group coverage, but it's maybe just if they could add one more channel, add one for 1, 2, and 3. I think people would watch the shit out of that as well. But I don't know. Again, I'm like, they give us the best offering of coverage that any tournament gives us, so I don't enjoy the part where we have to critique it, but like some of the most obvious stuff they miss is like what makes it so incrly frustrating.
It's really
They
funny.
kind of dig their own grave a little bit, because they got every shot 30 seconds later. So we know it's behind the curtain somewhere, which is a little baffling.
It's really funny to go back and read newspaper articles of like the mid 90s that talk about like why don't they show the front nine? And it was like the tournament chairman was like, well, we worry it'll affect the crowds. That the people won't come in the first round. If they are able to see the front nine, we'd like to have the full field filled out with the patrons.
That's big MLB blackout energy. We got a high-powered TV executive ready to come on and talk about this if we want to bring him on.
Yeah, let's do that. He may be able to answer some of these questions. Our man, he's shaking his head already behind the scenes. He has got the peepaw angle going already. Mr. Scott Van Pelt from ESPN. What is up, SVP? How are you, man?
I don't want to hear about the peepaw angle. I got this thing set. It's on a table. It's static. I'm not holding it in my hand. This is as good as it's going to get. So it's either good enough or it's not.
It looks great.
Is this in Butler Cabin?
It is not.
Okay. God, I would have said live from Butler Cabin would have been a nice entry for us.
That might have got us in trouble. Are you allowed to go live from Butler Cabin? What are your restrictions for the week?
I don't know. I've never thought about that. I mean, we go live at 3 o'clock on ESPN, at 8 o'clock this morning on ESPN. But I don't know. I was going to tweet out the that's what's going on at Augusta from the Butler Cabin, but I was afraid the universe would implode if I did that. So I just don't want to mess with it, man. I don't want to mess with it.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission, Scotty.
A really subtle sign off to an interview with that would be really nice.
I've done
Jim,
that a few
that's what's
times.
going on
I've
at
said
Augusta.
that, and that's what's going on at Augusta. I figure those that know.
Can we ask you? You interviewed Brooks Koepka after the round yesterday, and you asked him what he hit into 15. Was that an intentional little question mark there at the end of that?
Everybody loved that, and I asked him, "What'd you hit on 8?" Because I wanted to know the club, and I asked, "What'd you hit on 15?" And everyone's like, golf Twitter's the best. Everything's an inside
Very
joke.
petty. Very petty.
Everything's an inside joke. I just asked the club, and then as soon as I said it, I'm like, "Oh shit!" But he answered. So,
What did you make of that
"Oh."
situation? I hate to bring this up for third night in a row. What did you make of that whole situation?
Nothing. It's the angle of the camera. Okay, well, first of all, let me back up. Everybody does it all year long, right?
Not necessarily verbally, but
Well,
there's a lot of that going on. Looking in bags, we've talked a lot about that the last couple of weeks.
and there's
Yeah.
spotters out there, and if the spotter wants to know, and you're giving the information so that whoever could have been with the group is like, is it a five? Like I look, and I know that there are purists out there that they get mad, but they get mad about everything. And I know Woody's a buddy of mine. I said, "Hey, would you guys stop freaking cheating?" And he's like, "If you would have told me it was a 5, I'd have hit a 6 and I'd have been in the water." I truly think it was innocuous. If people want to make something of it, which they will, because that's what they do, I don't. That's me.
Here, move on, guys. Stop bringing this up, okay? I mean, you hear it right here, all right? Guys, stop asking.
I'm just telling you what happened as I understand it.
It had whiffs for me of where did it cross Twitter, which I'm always going to unsubscribe from the where did it cross conversation. I just take that away. Let's just keep going with the golf tournament.
Oh, should we talk about tree Twitter? Because I know I have a lot of thoughts about tree Twitter.
Let's not talk about Twitter at all.
Okay.
What do you do in a rain delay like this? Then is this you got to have some experience with this at Augusta?
I mean, this day's a kind of a one-off. I mean, just in terms of we start the day in the Butler Cabin on a Saturday, which is an extra day for us because we're first, second round, but second round was continuing. And then, I mean, it's 40-something degrees and it's pouring. I can't remember a day that felt like this. Like I've been here where it's raining. I've been here where it's cold. I don't remember a day that was this combination of it. And it's just puking rain for hours. But I mean, like now I'm left with not a great deal to do, which is fine. So we're going to find the seamy underbelly of Augusta and just get really weird. Why not?
Our benefit here, everyone's benefit here that you don't have much to do. But I don't know if you caught the clip of Tiger limping in 17 fairway before the horn blew. If you're Tiger Woods right now, what are you doing? Is he going to come back tomorrow and why?
I've thought about this a bunch since I saw it. Like it's just how odd is it that he keeps grinding his butt off to make the cut and getting the reward is like at Tulsa. What was the reward? Oh, hey, it's 50 and raining. Yeah. Have fun. You've got a fused back and a broken foot and an ankle or leg and all the rest of this. I mean, if he were to say to Augusta National, look, I've fought the good fight this week. I can't 27 tomorrow or 20 whatever it would be. I'm good. Y'all good? I'm good. You're a 5-time champ. Like, what are they? I can't imagine they'd be upset with him if he were to say no mas. And at the same time, because of the reverence he has for the event, if he were to come try to finish, it wouldn't surprise me. I just don't know what for what. You know, you've got nothing to prove to anyone. And I just don't know. I don't know why you do it. I don't know why you do it.
I mean, for the people that didn't see it, it was not a limp we've seen from him in anything since he's returned. I mean, it was like could barely put any weight on it, and it was right before the horn blew. I don't know if he was even going to finish 17. I don't know if the delay helps him at all, or maybe he'll feel better tomorrow. But I don't see any reason to go do it.
Here's the thing I'd say, and only he knows, right, fellas? Only he knows what is it he went through to even be out there this morning to finish, and then to make it, and then what was he going through physically, and then what's required to be out there first thing tomorrow. I mean, only he knows that. And again, if he were to say I can't go, I don't know who'd hold that against him.
What do you make of what we've seen out of Brooks Koepka? I don't feel bad at all for not having seen this coming. I'm not kicking myself at all for not having him in any of my picks, but I keep thinking like, all right, well, in different conditions, this might look a little differently. He looked the exact same coming out today. Do you think we're looking at a green jacket for Brooks Koepka?
There's a real interesting sequence coming on 7 tomorrow morning. I mean, Rahm's got a putt and for birdie, and Brooks has a putt for par, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, if Rahm hoops his and Brooks misses him, I mean, you get a real quick 2-shot swing. But I mean, based on how Brooks has played, it doesn't feel like he's going to wobble. I actually, guys, I liked him pre-tournament, and like people say, who do you like? I said Xander, but when they'd say, well, who else? I kept saying Koepka, and it was all health related. And when I spoke to him yesterday, I asked him to just sort of describe what is it you can do to the ceiling of your talents that you couldn't due to injury. And he said he was doing just like a stack and tilt because he just couldn't get to his right side. And he was just sort of BSing his way around the golf course. And by that, I just mean not putting his best effort into it, but he just didn't have the physical ability to swing at it correctly. He told Michael Eaves afterwards in round 1, basically just flushing the last 2 years. So he played well here. That's always my greatest. I don't care if you played well in the past or like the last couple of weeks. I care have you played well here. He just happened to have played well recently and has played well here, and he was healthy. So, I mean, look, you guys know as well as anybody, on the big stage and the biggest events, that gets his full attention, and you typically get the best version of Brooks Koepka. And I mean, look, him and Rahm in the arena, if it's those two, if they, you know, I know how much you love the match play bit, but I mean, if that's what it essentially becomes, who's bummed out about that? Nobody.
Scott, I followed Phil a little bit this week. I know Brooks doesn't really surprise you. He didn't surprise me either. I thought he'd play well, but how about Phil? What do you think about what's Phil's doing?
If you say that you had him in your picks, I will not believe that.
It was a no-brainer for Group D.
I
had
not.
Phil.
I did not. Not close. I saw him. We chatted for a while. I was eyeballing him, just looking at this version of Phil. It was just surreal. It's like he looks like Bones.
Yeah,
it's there, but did I see this coming? Absolutely not. And all credit to him. But I mean, look at Freddie. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I think there's a list of people. Phil's on it. Couples is on it. For the longest time, Bernhard Langer was on it. Although maybe that's not the best example because he'll win until he's 100.
Yeah.
But there's certain guys that it really doesn't matter what form they're in. They walk in here, and if they play well, you just go, well, yeah, that's just sort of what they do. But all credit to Phil. I mean, he's put himself in the mix. I mean, he was 6 at one point today, or was it 7? Whatever it was close. I mean, it's as close as anybody kind of not in that Rahm Koepka group. But it's totally left field. No, I absolutely didn't see that at all.
When you say this version of Phil, I think of this tweet that I don't know who this gentleman is, but he tweeted a couple weeks ago of Phil said he looks like an XFL coach about to explain a 39-7 loss. And I said,
well, I mean, Well, it's like right because like an XFL, like those logos, you're like, I don't know, are those the Battle Cats? I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not super dialed into what the Live logos are. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Put it out there. We back up. You guys tweeted that today, didn't you?
Yeah, I put my own twist on that one, but that photo of him at that press conference is just freaking perfect. I love it. So.
Scott, as a purely as a fan, you think the Live stuff makes Brooks more interesting or less interesting coming into
Brooks?
Yeah.
I think from this standpoint, it's what will they do with it? I mean, like Greg suggested that all the guys are going to be here to like storm the green or something. I mean, he didn't say that, but I mean, that was what he suggested. Like, I mean, remember when Tiger won in 19? That outpouring of respect you saw was totally organic. You know, people just waited just to reach out and show the guy the love. I don't know what would happen from like immediate post match, but I mean, look, it's an undeniable feather in their cap to have one of theirs win one of the biggest events in the world, and it would just be huge moving forward, simply because a healthy Brooks Koepka on, you know, U.S. Open stage or Oak Hill and then L.A. and then Open Championship. I mean, it would totally change how we see him, and would remind everyone that for that 18-month stretch of golf, no one in the world was close. Mm-hmm. For me, frankly, the whole tour versus tour thing, I find not interesting. And I said as much prior to. Cam Smith's here. Great to see him play. Phil's playing well. Great to see him play. I just like seeing everyone play against one another. Yep. But play to his best of abilities, Brooks Koepka, that's awesome for the game of golf.
Guys, Scott, I wanted to make sure that we could have an ESPN reunion here. That was my one wish. So we're going to bring in another one of our old friends here to join us here.
There he is.
Hey,
Mr. Wright Thompson, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Man, I'm great.
We felt bad. We had you sitting in the bullpen for way too long. You know, you're getting too many reps in the bullpen that your arm's going to get a little tired in there as you're warming up.
Well, you know, it's just a pleasure to be in the kill house.
What's your Augusta week been like?
It's been really good, man. We last night we had made carbonara. The night before that, we had steaks, really big ones like grass fed from Western Georgia. What else do we do? We've had a really good week. There's a golf tournament also that happened, so we've been doing that. And
partial golf tournament.
You know, yeah, partial golf tournament, and you know. Watching Tiger Woods, I mean, like, I don't know. It makes me actually kind of emotional. Just that, like, I find it as interesting and impressive as him going out and destroying fields.
Right. What did you see this morning from Tiger? I know you were up pretty early. You were sort of seeing, you know, Tiger grind a little bit on the range. You know, Van Pelt was probably the only other guy who was up as early as you this morning. What was the genesis of your story this morning?
You know, it's just that Tiger. I got a text from somebody who was at Augusta National, who was just like, Tiger Woods just pulled up, and he is the only player here. And I was like, oh my God! And so, like, I just find it interesting that he is working this hard to be a diminished version of himself. And, you know, it always felt to me that, like, if you go back and read all the transcripts, I did that big story on Tiger a couple of years ago, and I went and read all of the transcripts. And the number of times he talked about Nicklaus's record without it being asked is actually very, very small. Like that, it was almost always in response to a question. And it's kind of hard and finding, there are only a couple of times on the record where he would even acknowledge it, really. And then, so it has always seemed like there was something very private going on in public.
You're nodding, Scott. What's your reaction to that?
No, I think, I agree with Wright. I can recall vividly Wright being the one that was pressing him on the topic. And I was asking like 100 wins or 19, and it was like 19. And I said, I forget it. I got to 19 or something else. And he would, this is prior to any real injury. And that was when, that number still was the finish line. But it was only in response to me pressing that just because I wanted to know it. I personally feel that number went away. And for him, what became the finish line was Sam and Charlie seeing it once. And so I felt like 19 when he got to hug the children in the spot where he hugged the parents. To me, that became Circle of Life. And I just finished reading your story about Circle of Life in a very different way. And I agree. I'm as impressed as you are at the will to grind it out. It's not anonymity, but he's DFL. He's DFL right now, and that's he's been number one more than most. But I'm with you. There's something that's almost noble about the fight, isn't it?
I feel like Scott and you and Wright have been thinking. Go ahead, Wright.
No, you go.
I feel like the two of you have been thinking and talking about Tiger Woods for as long as anybody I know. I'm curious to sort of if you see a more vulnerable Tiger Woods, someone who's willing to sort of share a little bit more, open up a little bit about their process, their family. There's a lot of things that I think we're seeing more of Tiger, and I'm curious of your perspective, Scott. You're maybe a little skeptical.
I think yes and no. I mean, I've known him a long time, and there's things that are private that aren't anyone's business really. But just I believe in what that moment that you saw with Charlie was. I really believe in the power of what that was for him. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're asking, is he willing to share that? Well, yeah, you saw it, and he didn't hide what it meant. But if you're asking, is he going to sit down and really explain to you? No, I don't think that. His has been largely, the screen door conversation, right? You knock on the door, he'll open it, but you're still having that combo through the screen door. Is he asking you to come sit down in the living room and really talk? Probably not. But there are glimpses of more, yes, undeniably. And there's a more vulnerable man, yes. But I mean, is he to share those in depth? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Right.
It's interesting. I mean, I don't know him at all, and I mean, I think that's an interesting dichotomy. And, I guess here's what I think. I think that because of injuries and scandal and all of these things, that the person in front of you is much closer to the actual person that he is than maybe the person who was at a podium in 2005 was. And
no doubt.
That, he's not a hero or a villain. He's just a guy with a real personal life, likes to spend time with his kids and loves the solitude of a craft and likes to try to be really good at it. And that is its own reward in a way. And I just feel like I don't know if you sense that. I think a possible explanation for why is that he's much closer to the drive-by truckers lyric KVV. There's ain't much difference in the man I want to be and the man that I really am.
Yep.
I feel like there's some of that going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say this. No one's more gifted. No one is more gifted than my friend Wright Thompson at the essence of what is in terms of, writing about an athlete. And I think what you just said is entirely accurate. The really fascinating part, and that word's overused, but I think to me, it's fascinating, is being the man who lives inside the body that used to do the other thing that now can only do this. That's fascinating. And then the why is that's the crux of it all.
I love it. Well, we're going to let you, we could talk to you guys all night long about Tiger Woods, but we know you guys have things to do as well. So we really appreciate you both, Scott and Wright, for jumping on and helping us get through this rain delay. And we hope we're in for an epic finale to the 2023 Masters. So go ahead, Wright.
Boys.
Do you want to see what's on our stove right now?
Yes.
I do, if your connection will allow it, because it's
Wright
like,
lives such a more interesting Augusta existence than I do. It's just he's an absolute bon vivant. I love it.
SVP, you're talking about the
Here we go.
underbelly of Augusta. I mean, I feel like you got to
we're
sync
getting
up with
real
Wright.
weird, bro.
Yeah, Scott, I'll text you the address so you can.
There we go.
Yeah, love it. He's for the podcast listeners. Wright is showing some. It's Italian night at the house where Wright welcomes all people, and it is excellent looking. Some carbonara, I know. Lots of good stuff.
So, all right. Well, thank you to both. Thank you to
Thank
Wright,
you.
especially for testing the Wi-Fi limits of your B&B there in Augusta. So, thanks to both, SVP. Appreciate it as always. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.
You're the
See you
best,
guys.
boy.
Thank you.
Thank
See you,
you.
brother.
All right. I want to give a shout out to our friends at Rhoback Activewear. You guys are all extremely familiar with it, especially if you're watching on video, because you can see us wearing it right here, right now. This is the Azalea collection. DJ Pie and I had to do a little swap because we showed up for tonight's show wearing the same shirt. Unfortunately,
But
these guys,
the collection's so big.
it's so big.
We
It's
could just
enormous.
easy swap.
I didn't think I could pull off something like this. I kind of think it's working for me. My wife even complimented me on it today. The Azalea collection is restocked. You're not going to want to miss it. The polos are just fantastic. They're moisture wicking. They're perfect for a nice warm day like we're having here in Jax, or even a cool day. The collar is nice and crisp. The performance quarter zips that you'll see on KVV and Neil right now, they're a game changer. They're great for a nice morning of spring golf. They are soft, stretchy, and comfortable. You'll see us in these all the time. And lastly, of course, the performance hoodies. I'm proud of us, guys. We're a Rhoback night without any hoodies on. That's kind of a rarity, but I'm pretty much wearing one of these every single day. They're the softest hoodies in golf. We cannot take them off. You can wear them multiple times before you have to wash them. They're gaining traction big time. So go to the rhoback.com, RHOBACK.com. Use code NLU for a generous 20% off your first order. That's 20% off polos, Q-zips, hoodies, and more with code NLU. And again, check out the Azalea collection. Thanks to them for sending us a nice, fresh, hot batch.
Hot batch. A hot batch in a barrel, baby.
It is a fresh,
Steaming.
hot batch. Some other happenings from today, guys. I gotta admit, I was feeling it a little bit for JT. He surprisingly did a walk and talk on the 14th hole. In a lot of conditions that kind of calmed down a little bit at that point, but he referenced having a lot of golf left to play on that day, and it did not go well for him after that. And it was a great segment. I'm really glad they did it. I'm wondering kind of what his reaction to that's going to be after what happened after it and missing the cut by one. But him falling backwards got Tiger inside the cut line, which again, as we've asserted, was maybe not the best possible.
Could have been a lose-lose.
Yeah. That was,
Well, we talked about it last night. When is one of these walk and talks going to go poorly? It didn't really go poorly, but on the rewatch, JT said something that was like, on the rewatch was like, oof levels were high. He was drinking his protein shake. Like, is that your breakfast there? And he's like, yeah, just protein. I'm in for a long day. And I was like, oof. I don't know. On the rewatch, I don't know if we're in for a long day. You might be going home early. So I hope that doesn't discourage JT from doing that again. But it didn't go well after that walk and talk for him. So, that's the first time I can think of a player maybe walking off the course saying, I don't want to do that anymore. That threw me out of my rhythm, even though like on that hole, he hit a good approach and then he took the earpiece out and didn't have it on the green.
and I want to be clear. I don't want to give him. We're not explaining away what happened after that. It's strictly because of the walk and talk. Right? That may have messed up the flow a little bit or whatnot, but it's
I'm
an
not
easy
using that as an
correlation. But we're
excuse,
not.
But I could
yeah.
see the golfer,
sure.
not just JT, any of these guys being like, man, personally saying like that could be something that they say like I don't want to do it. I don't like that. It threw me out of my rhythm.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
why
don't
we
know.
need it at the Masters. It's kind of like it might just be a step too far. I enjoy it, but it's just surprising to me that players are. Again, I think players need to be working harder at making PGA Tour golf more entertaining and should be doing that. I don't know if the Masters it's still additive for the Masters, but it's also kind of like, dude, this is different. This is not just like an entertainment product. This is a very, very serious golf competition.
I don't know. I'll take it at the
For
Masters.
Well, I'll take it.
Like,
I'll
Way
take
in.
it.
I just think I don't think 14 was a good spot for it. I mean, I feel like earlier in the round is
I'm gonna
like,
guess there's some horse trading going on as far as like, yeah, I don't really want to do it on 13 because like there's a lot to discuss. And
no, I'm talking more like 7, 8,
Sure.
9, like end of the front 9, somewhere
Yeah.
in there. It just feels like late in the back 9 is a tough spot to, walk up and be like, hey, you put this AirPod in.
There's got to be a reason Max did it on 14 and JT did. I'm guessing
what I'm
that was
saying,
probably like, I still found it very interesting that they're, I don't know if 8-iron gets 150, if I can hit an 8-iron 159 now. Like, I looked it up. His carry distance is 172 with an 8-iron, and he doesn't think he can get 159 with it. It was just that was like put me in the zone in terms of what the conditions actually were. And again, it's not the sexiest stuff, but it's just super engaging for them to try to figure out where they're trying to hit the ball and all that. So I enjoy it. I'm just like kind of I'd be absolutely stunned if somebody did it in the final round of the Masters tomorrow.
I would like to see JT get double points in the PIP for doing that, so he doesn't feel like he's been burned by the situation.
The look on his face on 18 green, man, I don't remember ever seeing that on his face. He just looked like he was ready to cry, just like couldn't stop shaking his head. Bogeyed the last 2 holes to miss the cut. I know that's just got to be it. That looked pretty gut wrenching to have missed it that way. Disappointing week for him, I'm sure. It does. Oh, I know he complains about this a lot. It does seem like he gets the bad draw a lot. It really does. He did the PGA last year and still managed to win it, but yeah, that was not a fun part of the day.
I keep coming back to, Kevin, what you said in the preview about JT maybe not being 100%, right? And I could see like a week like this, it's almost a little tiny bit analogous maybe to some of the stuff we saw from Brooks over the last couple of years. But when you're already, if he is playing, not quite at full strength, which I don't know if we have like confirmation on that or not, but when that's a factor and you start making these mistakes and the weather's bad and the mic'd up, like I just see all those things like compounding and you just end up walking off 18 green being like, man, I only get so many shots at this and I just completely blew one, which is brutal.
I mean, I feel pretty confident in our sort of the information there about it. I think that he's trying to sort of fight through it. There's always every single like person who gets injured is like has a choice between, do you want to sit out for 6 months or a year, or do you want to kind of try to rehab it and play at the same time? And I think he's going through some of that right now. And, for all we know, like might end up being the right decision. Like I think JT at 80% could like win at Liverpool, could win at Oak Hill. So I understand the decision, but I understand, Matt Fitzpatrick is making the same decision right now. He's got a bad neck situation and he's trying to fight through it. And look at him. He's doing all right this week. He's up in the top 15. So
he might be the ultimate mutter.
Will you count out JT now for this week? KVV,
I should honestly be taking bids for like the people who want me to count them out. I bet Rory's gonna be like, yeah, Kev, like
write me off.
Could you write me off, man? Like I would. I actually wrote a thread about that today. I was like, maybe the next step for Rory is to like have everybody be like, yeah, dude, you're never gonna win this. And so it's just like to stick it to people. He will finally like reset his brain mentally about it. So,
I think there's something very real about that.
Yeah.
I thought that's a great point.
It's like the who was the D lineman for the Jags that used to have the trainer slap him?
Oh God,
John Henderson.
Yeah,
right? It's like KVV is going to be the trainer. It's like, yo, I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Okay, just slap me across the face. Get me ready to go.
Tyler
with
Durden
words.
situation.
Yeah, the Durden plan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, scotty could have used a wake up today because he didn't really deliver. So
he had a little bit more of a meek smile on his face. A little bit making room for wow, Deej. Like, wow. Instead, he was a little hangdog, mopey yesterday. I felt like the camera lingered on him, looking for that a little bit on the front nine.
I will say, just don't. Scotty 200 today was one of the better rounds out there, and has eked his way without any putter working into T14. Right, it's not been there's different levels of no showing, and he is still lingering without. I think it's safe to say lingering. He's not going to win this golf tournament, but he could still backdoor a top 5. I mean, I could absolutely see that.
I totally actually was getting ready to write Scotty off, and right before this, I looked at the leaderboard and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, no, now he's fulfilling my movie villain prophecy, where he just cannot be killed. He keeps rising slowly up the leaderboard. Maybe he's in this. Maybe if the leader 4-putts the 18th green, he'll be there.
TC is in the chat demanding we talk about Sandy Lyle and Jason Kokrak.
You want to splash the pot, Solly?
Kokrak came in
Kokrak.
hot. The most passionate I've ever seen Kokrak about anything. He was playing with Sandy Lyle, who is, of course, playing in his last Masters. They got delayed when he had a putt remaining for par. Was going to maybe be his final 1 or 2 strokes to be played in his Masters Championship history. The tree falls last night, and play gets suspended very, very, very shortly after that. Kokrak had some things to say about it. He said, to not let the patrons have the patrons let in at 8:00 to be around that green, damn near unforgivable. He told golf.com. I think it's the most ridiculous thing. We sort of were tracking up there by the scoreboard, and I thought any minute now there's going to be a stampede. But it would have been nice if probably a few more minutes, and I could have had the crowd give me a good send off. That part is from Sandy Lyle. And he said, Kokrak continued, I think it's absolutely chicken shit that they wouldn't grant a special exemption because they weren't going to blow the horn, except, I understand there was a freak accident, trees going down. Thankfully, nobody got hurt. I think that should have been something that could have been something understood by anybody under the umbrella of Augusta National and the Rules Committee to not have a temporary exemption for something like that. I get that there was lightning in the area, but we weren't going to blow the horn for a few more minutes. What did it take us to play that hole? 2 minutes, maybe. So to not let him tap in a 1-footer or make the 12-footer, I think they could have done something else. But they seem to have urgency. They seem to not care. So I think it's something that will be lost. Not so much for him. He'll remember it forever. I enjoyed my time with Sandy. I think he should have been able to finish, especially with the patrons around there. That's what makes this place so great, is the golf IQ of the patrons out here, or the fans that come out to Augusta, because they knew what was going on, and I think they wanted to see him make his last putt.
And think about the ones that just had the near-death experience. They were probably just like living in high def, ready to really soak in that moment too.
Solid.
And they would have robbed. That's strike two on that.
I almost saw God, but I really wanted to see Sandy Lyle putt, make this par putt.
You missed his sign off. I think he signed off the quote with "Try me."
I thought it was somewhere in there that they should be ashamed of themselves. I couldn't find that quote in there, but to call it absolute chicken shit, I was like, I think it's kind of the opposite of chicken shit. It's kind of like, hey man, there's a actual emergency probably going on here, and we need to get people off this golf course.
I don't think I've heard chicken shit in a quote since John Tortorella when he was the Tampa Bay Lightning's NHL coach. That's chicken shit. That's gotta stop.
There it is. I said this at the moment, and he's not going to get it. He's not going to get it again. So I think Augusta National and the Rules Committee should be ashamed of themselves, and I'm really disappointed for him and his family for not to have been able to have that moment. So it's typical Tour Pro of like only being able to understand directly what's in front of you and not a big picture at all, and not dude, when there's a weather emergency, like the rule here is that everyone's got to stop play, and there's a reason why you got to get everyone off the grounds. Like we can't have you like playing around on the 18th green and have your big moment. Like, no, we got to go now. Do we want this to happen? Of course not. But I just thought there could have been a special exemption.
I don't know how none of the Green Jackets hit hashtag Kokrak with the Stephen A. Smith. So let me stop you right there.
We don't care.
We don't care.
But I will say, to Sandy Lyle's credit, watched him, or maybe it was Larry Mize I watched tap in this morning. Sandy Lyle's waiting right there for him. They both took the bobsled. I think he missed a bogey putt to shoot 80-80, and they put the bobsled on their shoulder and they walked right up to the clubhouse. It was great.
Very cool. Chills.
DJ, I'm a Sandy Lyle fan. However, I would like to address the issue.
We don't care.
I'm sensitive about trees falling down. But
however,
what else happened today? What else are we forgetting here?
Little Sam Bennett talk. Amateur. I thought he held up well. He started bogey, but I think he righted the ship. He hit a really good shot into 6, the par 3, and it felt like he was starting to get some momentum and settle himself a little bit. So I don't see him careening down the leaderboard tomorrow. But I don't know if he's going to win. But I think he deserves a ton of credit for. I feel like after 2, it could have gotten out of hand. You bogey 2, that's when the wheels can come off pretty quick on the front 9.
He was seeing a red coat down there, Neil.
Oh, did he hit it? I didn't see. Unfortunately, I was unable to see it. He visited the Delta counter.
He was. He was checked out. It looked like he had some flight delays. It just wasn't a great spot down there.
And I imagine he doesn't have a ton of status, right, as an amateur.
Right. No,
he's
totally.
probably
he's got all these million milers that are in there.
He's a silver or gold medallion, right?
I think he's silver. He gets upgraded from maybe Boise to Salt Lake or something.
I think the home is
Boise
boarding in Group 2 for sure. He's not
wanted a special exemption down there.
It does not say SKY on his boarding pass.
No,
say that.
We're gonna be we'll call you for Group 4.
You try to get one of those American Express cards that gets you into Group 4, but it's just not a lot of payoff there.
That's the good stuff.
TC is adding it. They turned him away from the Sky Club in Terminal B.
Guys, TC might be loitering.
Yeah, we might need to bring him in.
If we might need to fucking do something about TC.
The most involved person in the chat. But I want to check in next with our next partner, which is Athletic Greens. I've been taking AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. I gave it a try. I heard great things about it. What got me was the line that it's an energy boost with something other than coffee. Now I look forward to, I feel really good when I take something really healthy to start my day. I'll mix it with 12 ounces of water, shake it up. It takes 2 seconds to clean the bottle back out. It is really easy to take. Now, Neil, I know you've been fighting your wife over the AG1 supply that you guys have. I'm not much of a morning person, but it's seriously been helping my energy and helping it maintain throughout the course of the day. I'm usually craving a coffee around like 2:30, and I really haven't been this past week. It's a lot more than a greens powder. It's all of your key health products in one. It's got 75 high-quality ingredients. Gives me my daily nutrients and long-term gut health support. It costs less than $3 a day to take. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/NLU. That's athleticgreens.com/NLU and check it out.
Can I tell you, tomorrow's 2 weeks, no coffee. I think the AG1's a big reason why. I'm totally with you. Lockstep, first thing in the morning. It's great.
You out on coffee or just trying to check yourself?
Just caffeine. We can take that to the trap draw, but it's an interesting conversation. I've been feeling a lot better, sleeping a lot better.
Wow, good, good.
KVV, you got some topics for us to kind of wrap up tonight's show. We don't have a lot of golf to react to, so we go ahead.
Look, I came up with a little game. I thought it'd be kind of fun that we could bounce around some scenarios and some little roundtable discussion here. So I'm gonna kick us off here. I'm gonna go to you, Neil. We're gonna go best case scenario for a winner, and I'm gonna bounce up to each one of you. But Neil, I'm gonna you just start us off here.
Well, I was lockstep with SVP. I'm looking forward to Rahm and Koepka in the arena. I think it's a two-man. I'm trying to think of a way like duel in the. Not duel of the mules. Obviously, they're not mules, but like I can't come up with something.
The opposite of that.
It's going to be the opposite of a duel of the mules. And I think ideal winner is Rahm. And I really wanted if I could write the script, Brooks continues to play patient golf, doesn't blink, and doesn't get frazzled, and Rahm just tracks him down. Almost similar to what he did at Kapalua when he just came charging up to beat Colin, and it's just down to the wire. That would be my ideal winner and situation.
All right. Deej, let's bounce it to you.
Yeah, and first of all, I appreciate the comment from someone saying I was just talking about having coffee on the show last night. Decaf coffee, guys. I told you I'm out of caffeine, but we'll take that.
So finding these slant.
Yeah. Neil, I'm going to take the opposite tact. It's good TV. I'm going to say Brooks is the most interesting situation.
Now skip. Come on.
Skip.
And I think that I actually am going to go back to what Wright and SVP were saying as well about, kind of being the guy who once did something and then losing the ability to do that and still being the same guy. And now Brooks is trying to figure out if he can also go back to the first guy, right? And he's trying to figure that out in real time. I tweeted something about this, but I think the full swing stuff, the thing that everybody kept saying about full swing was like, oh, it's going to bring all these new people into the game. And I think we almost kind of underrated like how much more interesting it could make some players that we were already dying to see more from. And Brooks is exhibit A of that for me, where it's like, man, I've always thought he was very one-dimensional, very boring, very dickish, very performative, and he still is a good number of some of those things. But I do think there's more going on. I think there was a little more vulnerability, and I think he's got some more stuff like kind of going on in his mind and with his confidence and with his, with all kinds of things. And I'm like very fascinated just to see if he can battle the elements, battle the most relentless player in the world, battle injuries, battle mental demons, battle all these things on, at kind of the most famous golf tournament in certainly America, if not the world. And on the biggest stage we have, and see if he can do that. So I think that would be fascinating if he pulls it off, and I'm kind of low-key rooting for him. And I think that's going to make, so I guess, sorry, to get back to the original question, like what is, the best case scenario for a winner? I think he's the guy that is going to be the most interesting for people. Like, I think he's the guy that makes people feel the most.
Can
Positive, negative.
I rebuttal?
Please.
So I don't want to cut into your time here, but I would say that storyline, I see it. I agree with you. That's compelling. I just think it would be too easy. If we're talking about adversity, I'd love to see Brooks get right to the precipice and get it yanked away from him by John Rahm. That to me
That would
is
be
even
great.
better.
Yeah. I
Right.
love that.
So when we're talking about what is your ideal scenario, it's Brooks seeing the finish line, and here comes Mr. Freeze tracking his ass down in the truest park outfield.
I guess where I always come back to is, so I always say this a lot, I know, but like, it's very fun to root for history, and watching someone get from 4 to 5 is a big fucking deal.
Huge.
And we're not
huge
going to,
deal.
like, realistically, other than Rory and, maybe, I mean, Spieth, I just had an image of him in the trees flash into my head. I mean, like, very possible that nobody from this generation gets to 5. Right. And it's just, I don't know, when you start looking at it like that, it's like Rahm getting to 2 or Brooks getting to 5. Like, what's more interesting? I think it's Brooks. I don't know.
All right,
I think
Sally, hit me.
the best case scenario is kind of what you laid out there near the end, which is Rahm edging out a still still achieving Brooks Koepka, right? Like, still one that's sprinting through the finish line. I don't think it's a win if he fades, right? Brooks is still one of, if not like the champion of this generation, depending on how you define the generation. But like, ever since Brooks has gotten involved, Rory has not won any majors. So like, more recently, Brooks is the dude of the generation, right? And I think people in the tribal nature of everything probably, many times I've tried to explain it, like, don't see the nuance in this. And when I say, like, I don't root for like the live golfers to fail in any way, but one of the things that has bummed me out about like dudes that have achieved a lot going to live is the fact that it either feels like a bailout or it feels like the end of their competitive, golf reign, if you will. And if that's not the case, I will feel better about that, right? I still won't enjoy the aspects of live, and I won't enjoy what it's done to week golf. I don't think that it should be split off into different factions, and I just think it's very silly. But when these guys get together at majors, like Brooks still being an achiever in this generation, like, gives me a little bit of hope. Like, that's really freaking competitive. That's awesome. I don't know. I'm intrigued by that storyline, right? And I don't want to see Brooks fail. So I don't know if I think I still would be like Brooks sprinting through the finish line and going and run away with it would be not best case scenario, but that's not like doomsday either. Like, that's a statement return that not a lot of people saw coming. There's almost always health that precedes a top player falling off in some way, Rory being the exception. And I don't really know how to explain it, but it still felt like, it didn't feel like this was about to happen. Again, I'm not counting Live Orlando to like say like, oh, we should have seen this coming. But again, it just every night on the show, I'm like, yeah, we'll see him do it tomorrow. And he keeps doing it. And I'd be stunned now at this point if he didn't, end up 14, 15 under by the end of tomorrow.
All right. So my scenario, I do not think that Brooks is particularly like enthusiastic about live. I think he's sort of a little bit lukewarm. He's sort of like, I had to kind of do this. However, I think the best case scenario for like the fun of the next 6 months would be if Brooks like won and then just stunted all over one and gave like the Suge Knight like death row speech, like, hey y'all, why don't you come on over to join us up with Death Row? If you want to keep your money, you want to get tired of Jay Monahan dancing in all the videos, do whatever. I think that would be really sick. Yes. So I think all you little live trolls out there who love to sort of complain about like how I don't like the live stuff, I actually think that would be really sick if that happened. And I think there's a decent chance. I don't think Brooks is like that sort of demonstrative about it. I think he's kind of just like, whatever, live, it's cool, I got my millions, but that would be cool.
That seems to not go quite with the not even rumors, the very real stories of him asking about his path back to the PGA Tour. But that would be quite a surprise. But yes,
that's why I think this is so interesting. If he goes and wins, right? Is like, if he goes and proves like, man, I am good enough to beat the shit out of the best players in the world, and now I only get to try to prove it 4 times a year. Maybe that's all he cares about. But like, I really don't think he wants to go.
But it was kind of like that before,
and all these other events.
But it was kind of like that before. Like,
yeah, but he didn't. He also could make his own schedule, and he didn't have to go to fucking cocktail parties to go watch these like Steely Dan looking guys playing these plastic pianos and all these like,
and the shrimp,
cocktail shrimp and all. Like, he doesn't have to do all that stuff, which he does now, and he has to wear a fucking uniform for a made up team. Like all this stuff is so stupid. And if he goes and wins the Masters, he still has to go do it. And I think that's awesome and fascinating. And like, again, like you might not root for it, but like, dude, show me that movie. I want to see more about that guy. Like, tell me, like, straight up, yes or no, binary question. Like, who makes you feel more stuff when they're on the golf course, Rahm or Brooks? Positive or negative?
I would say by style of play, Rahm does.
Really?
Slightly. I find like
That's a good question.
I feel that is a good question, but Brooks is. I think it was. I keep coming back to the word patient. Like when he is the classic front runner, and I kind of find it boring. Like the way that when he's got it going, like it's not super exciting to watch. It's kind of an overpowering, middle of the green, pick your spots kind of golf, and that's a compliment. You know what I mean? Like but at the same time, like it isn't. Like KVV, I don't want to jump ahead here, but like worst case scenario for me is if he runs away and hides, and that's more of a short term thing. I know it'll be accused of like, oh, it's just because he's at Live. No, it's because that'll be boring tomorrow.
Yeah,
because the course won't be gettable and no one can charge, and he's just like almost dangling the carrot and no, can't get there. Like that to me is like long term, Deej. I think the narrative and the storyline and the career arc of Brooks becomes more interesting. But if we're talking about what I want to see tomorrow, like that kind of feels like a snooze fest.
Yeah. All right.
It's an interesting, I want to stick on this. Sorry. Cause that's a really interesting question. Cause I struggled with that in my own head. And I think it's kind of the easy answer is Brooks because he has 4 majors, right? And 4 to 5 for the exact reasons you said. Yet if I feel somewhat heavily invested in Rahm and cause I think one, he's going to win the Grand Slam, of course, but 2, it's like, I think he's going to win. Like, what do you think Rahm ends his career with? If you're sitting here right now, what's the over under? 3.5 majors?
11.
Okay, 11. That's
I'm kidding.
I mean, 3.5 would be
3.5
great.
would be a great line.
Right. So I think we're on the upswing of that, and I feel like I feel invested in that part of the process. Not every golf fan may, but I feel like
Logan Roy is 3.5 less than 5. It's KBV.
Right, but
is 3.5 less than 5?
It's a good question.
It's a great question. All right, so let's go reverse snake draft, Solly. Neil's already thrown out his worst case scenario. What's your worst case scenario?
Team Rose.
Okay.
I'll save time. That's what I had as well.
Okay. Sort of a massive. How would we get to that massive collapse by the various leaders? A Rose 65 on Sunday.
Again, looking at this leaderboard, I think it is a 2-man race, but it's just worth noting like Rose is 2 shots out of 3rd place, right? There's not a lot of dudes between him and the very top, and so I'm 4 under. Not a lot of the dudes at 4 under do I think can win it. I'd be very, very surprised if Phil won. That might be best case scenario. If Phil came back and won this, that might be the number 1. But only reason not to rule out like Morikawa. I don't think Hovland's going to win, but I wouldn't rule out Morikawa at 5 under par. He's got 29 holes to go. Koepka and Rahm have 30 holes to go. Still a lot of golf. If that lead is 2 or 3 going into Sunday, obviously that lead has been taken. There's a 6-shot lead going to the back 9 at this tournament that has been erased before, like in 2016. So look, it's always easy when the leaderboard pauses for a minute to have your eyes go to the very top and think that's where it's going to come from. But again, with this much golf to play, it would not surprise me if someone made a crazy run.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead. Yeah.
Well, the only thing I'd add is I looked down the leaderboard, but I just didn't think any of those were realistic to even bring up.
Sure.
I do feel like it's
too much respect for the tournament to even bring that up.
Yeah.
I think that actually a Cantlay charge is like a little bit realistic. I think that would be my worst case scenario, not because I hate Patrick Cantlay, but because I feel like we don't really know anything about Patrick Cantlay, and he's never going to give us like any sort of juice. I think Patrick Cantlay is also like a real live candidate. Like he could get the Masters title and be like, well, I'm in the Masters forever, so me and Xander are going to live. I think that would be a real boring.
Come on, get in, Xander. We're going shopping.
Yeah,
that's an insane hypothetical you just laid out.
Oh, absolutely. I have nothing to support this other than just like totally random. But that's why I'm saying it's my worst case scenario. Like Patrick Cantlay to me just doesn't do. He's a great golfer, and I think that his talent could suddenly like appear on a Sunday and turn in a 66 when everybody else was stinking. But that would be my sort of worst case scenario. Imagine Patrick Cantlay giving like a post round speech about like, yeah, it was cool. Like, I just kind of hit some good shots, and oh man, that'd be a tough one to write.
It would. I still, the most recent Cantlay pod was not, I wouldn't call it the most electric interview we've ever done, but I still do go send people back to April 2020 pod we did with him, which was like, dude, Cantlay's not the most boring person ever. Like,
He's
listen
so
to this
smart,
interview.
I think. Yeah. I mean, he's very smart.
He can be. Maybe I caught him on a bad day and he wasn't, his most turned on, or maybe the monotone, nature of it kind of didn't really excite people, but he is a smart dude. He is set in his ways and he is going to say what he feels, and it's not going to change his mind really on much of anything. But I don't know if he's fully as boring as some people would say he is. Just I don't know. I might be leaning too much on a 3-year-old interview, but I found that interview very entertaining.
No, I agree with you. I think he's done. There's a lot of other examples. He's been really good in press conferences. He's been good in, like, when he gets talking on a subject that interests him. I think he's really good. And I think him it's almost like going from 4 to 5, like him going from 0 to 1 is a big deal. And being a major championship golfer, and it's kind of the difference between, like, I don't know who would be a good example, but like that's you still look at Webb Simpson in like a slightly different way. And I know that's not an exciting sentence, but you do, right? Because it's like, well, yeah, he won a fucking major, right? And I can't, like, kind of seems like he should be there. But anyway,
that's where I come back with Rahm is like, dude, Rahm needs more majors than Webb Simpson. He needs more than Gary Woodland. He needs more than Danny Willett. And I know he's not even 30 yet. Like, it's unfair to say probably at this point, but like, it's time for him to have 2. It really is. It's got to come this year. He's got to end this year with at least 2 majors. It's his time. It really is.
I guess, and my worst case scenario is not Brooks winning. It's just him winning in a very, like, I don't know, sterile way, right? I don't think he's backing up. That's something I would, like, put on record. Like, I don't think he's shooting worse than even par tomorrow.
So if Brooks pulled an Emmelman and just was like fine on the last day, but no one else could come at him and he won by 4 or 5, that would be your worst case scenario.
Basically, yeah. Or like he shoots, I think it's like he shoots 68 on in the 4th round and just birdies all the par 5s, and it's just like, damn, man, and everybody's pressing and nobody gets within that 2-3 shot. I just want to see the duel, right?
Yeah.
I would like him to I don't want him to blink. I just want Rahm to go get it. And I think, DJ, to your point, like, that would make me feel some things. Like, when you talk, like, Rahm does make me feel some things. When he's charging at, Kapalua, it's like, yo, man, this guy is so good. Like, he's so good at golf. And when he gets it going, he's the Terminator.
Yeah.
I want to see Rahm play some offense. That right? I mean,
yes,
I didn't
well
love
said.
Today's conditions for him, but he played freaking offense from the second hole of Thursday up through the end of round 2, even through this morning. He was sprinting through that.
And he deserves so much credit for how he played on the horrible side of the draw. I mean, he's a fucking gamer. Like, he can play in Birdie Fest and he can grind it out in the U.S. Open. Like, I feel like Rahm is a complete player. And so I want to see him go on offense. So that's really well said.
KV, we're going to pause your game because we have an unexpected guest. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to bring her in, but huge fan of this next guest. You can see her on the hole 15 and 16 stream on masters.com. She's been an incredible commentator over there. Miss Iona Stephen, welcome to the show. How are you, Iona?
Thank you very much. I'm doing great, guys. How are we all doing here?
How are you spending the rain delay? What's a day after everything gets called look like for you?
Well, right now I'm sitting on a very bougie chair in my house that I'm staying in this week in Augusta, Georgia, and I'm looking out the window. The rain is bucketing down, and we were all sent home eventually after the rain was proving too hard for everyone, including ourselves. We were finding that really difficult. The atmosphere and the energy had kind of dropped, and I think everyone was feeling, as we would say in Scotland, a little bit dreich.
How do you spell that?
I don't know if I could say that word.
DREICH.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to check.
I have multiple streams going, and I flipped over to 15 and 16 today, and I got over there, and you were just nailing the clubs all these guys were hitting. If they pulled 8-iron, you were just like, yeah, this is not going to get there. Like, how you get to watch the same holes kind of on repeat. What's that process like of seeing guys make the same mistake and being able to club them like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would never make such bold calls, I think, in my commentary when I'm normally out there on course in the DP World Tour, because you never know what magic a player can produce, right? But when you're sitting there for 7 hours a day watching the hole and watching how they're taking it on, and you get an idea of, these young guns who hit it X amount of distance. And then the more senior players were coming through, and we were like, okay, well, this is now between a 6 and a 5 iron. The big hitters come in. It's like, okay, is it an 8 or a 9 iron? And then occasionally you have someone like Ryan Fox that just rocks up with a pitching wedge and just like muscles one in there to the flag to within a foot. And you're like, okay. But, you know, it's really fascinating. This is the first time I've ever commentated on feature holes. And I wasn't sure how that was going to feel. You know, 7 hours commentating on 2 holes, despite the fact they're great holes, you know, key protagonist at the Masters, a par 5 and a par 3. I was a bit anxious thinking, am I going to have enough to say here? But it turns out it's one of the most enjoyable weeks of commentary I've ever had so far. Every single shot is different and you never run out of things to say. My co-commentator, Ned Michaels, I've got to give him a shout out. He's absolutely wonderful to work with. We are having a hoot in there. And, you know, it's so interesting seeing how each player takes on these holes. The par 5 15, so strategic. You know, you've got to get your tee shot away down that right-hand side. It's all about angles and just listening to the conversations that the caddies are having with their players. That's what we're getting across there on the feature hole coverage. You get the real depth insight into what the way that the caddies are working with their players and the dynamic that they all have between them. You know, watching, you know, someone like Tyrrell Hatton, who's now got Bo Martin on the bag, who used to caddy for Shane Lowry, you know, watching them in comparison to someone like Jordan Spieth coming down, you're getting very different styles of conversation. And it's so interesting. And of course, down there on the 16th tee, where sometimes you can sense that it's just like the oxygen has been sucked out of the room. You're really watching and listening. And then me and Ned Michaels, I mean, we sound like, you know, we always come out on top because we have the advantage of having watched, you know, 100 shots in there already. And yeah, you can see where they all slip down and there's swirling winds around that 16th green. So they come down and there was a lot of conversation this morning with that pin where the hole location in the center of the green, but up on that top tier. And so many times players are coming down and going, I don't know, I feel like I want to hit a 7 iron in there. And their caddies were sometimes negotiating them to hit the 8 iron. And we were going, no, hit the 7 iron, hit the 7 iron. And they'd go, yeah, solid 8 iron. We'd be going, no, it's a 7. I was like, Ned, just run down there and just sit on the back of that tee.
No advice, Ayo. No
advice. There's a lot of that going around. Right?
Yeah, the crowd really loud. I think
on
it's
your
hole.
Yeah, did someone say 7? 7? Yeah,
well,
so it's been great.
You last night on your guys' feed, you guys were, for people that don't know, you guys were commentating live when the tree fell on 17. Well, take me to that situation. What was that like to call that in live action?
That was terrifying. Really, really quite a scary moment there. And Sergio Garcia was in the bunker to the right of 15. And yeah, we're just chatting away, you know. And suddenly we saw these branches falling and we thought, uh-oh. And then sure enough, we saw these two Georgia pines just coming down. And, you know, it was a very natural reaction in terms of our commentary. Ned was like, watch out, you know, because you kind of watch as a commentator, you're really watching as a viewer, you know, and this is it gave us both such a fright. And obviously the main thing is that nobody was hurt. And we're really, really so grateful that that's the case. And I know that Augusta National do absolutely everything to make sure that it's a safe place. But when we're as golfers, as we know, it's Mother Nature that we're dealing with. So ultimately, she holds the cards, and sometimes things like that happen. But thankfully, everyone's safe and is okay. But it was a bit of a scary few minutes there, and they cut to a scenic of a bridge, and Ned and I were really just hoping that everyone was okay. And we have a variety of monitors in front of us, and we could see on one of them that, you know, there was a lot of scuttling around going on, and we were just keeping our fingers crossed. And thankfully, everyone was fine.
Iona, I was very impressed. You pulled out "Holy smokes," I believe was kind of your reaction. The fact that you didn't cuss on air, I would.
Yeah, well, you can imagine it's not normally "Holy smokes." It's normally.
That's what I mean. I was impressed
that
that's what came out. So I haven't heard "Holy smokes" in a while on the air. Which
is
good stuff. I have a curious, like a technical question for you. Where do you sit for the coverage? Are you up in a tower or are you on the ground somewhere else?
Yeah, we're on the ground in what's called the content center,
Okay.
or as the Americans say, the content center. So we're in the content center, and yeah, it's really amazing over there. And all the different networks have their own kind of house. It's very posh, and I mean, it's wonderful. You go into these beautiful little houses, and in there you've got everything. And I'm obviously with CBS this week, and it's a real privilege to work with them. And round the back, I mean, it's like a well-oiled machine. That's how I would describe it. There's a lot going on. There's cables flying everywhere, but we have a lovely little room that's set up perfectly for commentary, monitors in front of us. It's soundproof, great acoustics in there so that everyone at home is happy. And yeah, it's just a wonderful week. Normally we don't get treated this well. And so as commentators, we're living the high life.
I love it. And another question, you teased it a little bit earlier, but what was the best shot you've seen so far from the approach into 15, and then the best caddy player combo?
Good questions. I mean, the standout shot for me down these holes was Shane Lowry's chip today from the back of 15. That was just a touch of class, and you can see that online. It's gone a little bit viral. He hit it through the back of 15 and 2, and I mean, Shane Lowry with a wedge in his hand is like, I don't know, Picasso with a paintbrush. He's an absolute mastermind around the green, and this was an impossible shot, absolutely impossible, and somehow he managed to nuzzle one in there to like 1.5 feet. So that's worthy of a watch. And I'm gonna say for comedy value that Tyrrell Hatton and Bo Martin has been my favorite combo, because Tyrrell is just so angry the whole time, and
at the Masters
is handling that.
Imagine being mad at the Masters.
No, you're like, what's going on, man? You're at the Masters. You've made the weekend. On 16, there was Tyrrell had about an 8 or 9 foot putt for par after they'd had a long conversation on the tee box about which club to take. This was into the third round now, so the whole location had moved forward by a few yards and back further on the right. So it was, again, fascinating just listening to how the players were discussing what club they should take. And we saw more players being more aggressive with that whole location because there was more scope to miss it long. And actually the bunker on the right, it wasn't a bad miss for the whole location. You'll see for the second half of play in the third round tomorrow, you'll see many players going into that bunker on the right-hand side, and it's actually not too treacherous and up and down from there. And then there's this little bit of grass kind of in between the two bunkers just behind the hole. And that's where Tyrrell Hatton was. And Bowen and Tyrrell had a long conversation on the tee about what club to take. And Tyrrell was fuming that he had flown the green and was through the back. And then he very heavy-handed onto the green. And I just said to Ned, I said, hold on to your hat. If this doesn't go in, then Tyrrell will do all the commentary for us. So we don't need to do a thing. And thankfully he held the putt. So you could see Bo Martin going like, oh, thank God, So I don't know. I think that's a very entertaining dynamic. But of course Tiger, Joe LaCava came down. That was quite difficult to watch with Tiger really struggling in those conditions. But every player
came up so short there. It wasn't even close off the tee on 16. That was tough to watch. Really tough. His body wasn't doing what his mind wanted it to do. And he doubled 15 and sort of limped his way to the 16th tee. And he was playing alongside Thomas Pieters. He'd hit one short, many players hitting that little ridge there just in front of the flag, and it would just feed down into the gully. Tiger obviously trying to work a little fade in there, and his body just wasn't moving. In those cold conditions, it was absolutely freezing, and just went in the drink.
What do you see? Like, can you see other golf going on while you're commentating? Do you have screens that are showing other, do you get a sense of what's going on with the rest of the golf course? Or when someone shows up on your feed, are you like, oh, wow, Brooks Koepka's 13 under par. How does that work?
So we've got a scoreboard and we can see the scores in front of us. And then obviously we've got our computer and we keep on top of what's happening on the scoreboard and the leaderboard. But no, it's a really weird feeling actually. At the end of the day, you come out of the commentary box, you've been in there for 7.5 hours, and it's like I know everything that's happened on 15 and 16, but not a clue what's actually happening in the tournament. So I went onto the Masters Twitter live thingamajig yesterday, and they said, "What about Rahm's start? I mean, starting the way he did," and I was like, "You tell me. I mean, what?"
That's why I
happened
asked.
I was like, "Yeah, I mean, you tell me because I'm fascinated." But we're trying. Obviously, at the end of the day, I'm catching up with things, and I'm watching stuff on the telly at night. My house here has got about 14 different televisions to watch, so this is obviously a sports fan in this house. But yeah, catching up with it. But you're really engrossed in 15 and 16. It's a unique experience and fascinating one.
Iona, how much prep have you put into catchphrases? As calling big moments, you're going to see a lot of birdies and eagles on 15 and 16. You got any preconceived calls?
I've got to be honest, not really. I mean, a lot of my commentary I've learned from a man called Ken Brown, who is,
of course,
brownie points, of course, yeah,
yeah. He's one of, if not the best commentator, in my opinion, that's alive on planet Earth right now. I mean, he learned from the great Peter Allis, who sadly I never got to meet, and Ken's taught me, I'm going to say, a lot of what I know, and I really followed his, and I'm following in his footsteps in terms of how to approach commentary. And it's a gentle approach that Ken has, and I'm really trying to bring that into the style that I have. I think, you guys know this, the best and most effective style of commentary and most enjoyable is the most authentic, I think. So I honestly have nothing that's preconceived. What comes out, if it's golly gosh or good grief or whatever it was, holy smokes.
Yeah, give me another holy smokes if you see a hole in one or something. I
Or
want to hear a holy
content.
smokes.
Maybe hit us with it, man. That's good content.
Or in your life, have you seen that? Maybe don't use that one on 16. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a few that have been taken, but I'm sure over the next 10, 15 years of my career, there'll be something that comes out that hopefully stands the test of time. But I'm just trying to walk before I can run in this commentary game. And I'm just so privileged to have the opportunity to say anything at all.
All right. Well, we thank you for jumping on and spending some time with us. People can find you on the whole 15 and 16 feed tomorrow. A lot of golf still left to play, but we greatly appreciate you popping on, and we'll definitely have to have you back sometime. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd love that. It's great to see you all, and enjoy the rest of the week.
Cheers.
Thanks.
TC is active in the chat and is demanding that we have a Mickelson prediction for tomorrow.
Oh man,
Feel the thrill.
Question.
Well, it feeds into the most unlikely scenario. Sorry.
What's that?
I was just saying we got 27 holes with which to predict here.
I was saying it feeds into my most unlikely scenario, which is Phil the Thrill doing the Cantlay charge that KVV was talking about earlier, which I think is extremely unlikely, but I think we would all be here for it.
What an interesting moment. I mean, what an unreal, surreal thing it would be to see Phil like get in the mix and just throw like a Sunday Jack 65 at everybody.
It'd be amazing. I'm definitely rooting for it.
DJ, your most unlikely scenario?
Oh gosh. I mean, it's probably Sam Bennett, not to be cold water guy, right? I don't
selling. He continues to sell.
Yeah. Continue to sell. I'm sorry, Neil. I hope you get great returns, and I'm proud of you for holding. But I think amateur going and winning the Masters is pretty unlikely. I'm going to go on a big limb and say that. Hot take.
All right, Solly.
Most unlikely. I mean, there's a lot of I think most unlikely is that Tiger Woods wins the Masters this year.
Okay.
That's probably my most unlikely story.
Probably pretty unlikely. Yeah.
I was also going to say I think it's extremely unlikely that he plays golf tomorrow. I'm keep refreshing Twitter, seeing that he would have withdrawn, but I think that or Phil Mickelson winning the Masters would still Phil being in the top 10 is also extremely unlikely, and him winning would be maybe my most unlikely scenario.
I'm going to go with Russell Henley is the winner. If you guys are able
this
to
is
pick...
news to me that he is 4 under par as well. Just learned this.
If you guys are allowed to pick Justin Rose, then I'm allowed to pick Russell Henley. I'd be for that. That'd be fine. It would be a very much a Zach Johnson, Mike Weir kind of win, someone who I never thought of as a major winner, but all of a sudden is. So yeah, that would be my most unlikely.
I think most unlikely thing is Xander to not finish T5. It's like it's his birthright. That's gonna happen.
He's kind of far back. He's going to need to get hot tomorrow to to get the guaranteed T4, which I think I did halfway through round 4. Before we wrap, we got a little segment on what's the worst golf weather you guys have ever played in, because that today out there looked like the worst weather I feel like I've ever seen anyone play the Masters in. I wonder if you could go. We'll start with you, Neil. What's the worst golf weather you've ever played in?
So there's a kind of a short list, but I think it wasn't as long as it lasted for about 13 holes. But Monterey Peninsula Country Club. This is February of 2019. Horace Sauce.
Thank you to TC for having us out.
What'd you say?
Thanks to TC for having us out.
Of course. But Taurus Sauce season 3, we're in the RV. And I think the fact that we're in the RV, now this is Ballybunion. This is a different one. It's Monterey Peninsula Country Club. And I think it was the one time I remember playing golf when there were rivers on the greens, which is like,
it's tough. It's tough to do.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple times I'm strapped where it's been really cold, like Tallahassee, when we played that second round Deej with Cam Riley. That was up there for just like kind of Les Mis. But like this is as bad as it gets. And it was cold and soaked through. I didn't have the proper rain gear, so that probably like has made this kind of imprinted on my memory a little bit. But I think you guys were all there. Would you guys agree or disagree?
It's it's like that scenario of like, dude, there's no rain delay option. It's either you play Monterey Peninsula in the worst possible rain or you don't play it at all. It's like, you might as well go do it and get a fraction of what the experience is probably like. But the sun did come out, or the rain did stop on the back 9 there, and we powered through. It was delightful. We're very proud to do that, but that's some of the worst. Yeah.
And that's where I'll trump yours, Neil. Is just it also wasn't that cold, right? Whereas NIT, the Nest Invitational Tournament a couple years ago in Jacksonville, it looked a lot like today. That level of rain, except it was also blowing 30 and just all day. I think there's a great video of your buddy Tommy Armour IV just out there beating balls on the Jack.
He flew in from LA. He's like, he hadn't played golf, and I was like, dude, this is bullshit. Like, let's just go to the range. It's not that bad out there. And it was like, it was bad. Really, really bad out there.
Yeah, so that was it for me.
I love that he's doing the Genghis thing where you like get the club and then try to shallow it.
He went through a phase. He's not doing that anymore. I talked to him last week. He's like, I asked if he's still doing the hinge. He's like, no, I quit doing that. But it was working for him for a little while.
One of mine is from the summer of Solly in 2017 when I drove all around the UK and Ireland for like 40 days playing a lot of golf, and I stopped at a course called Fraserburgh up on the kind of northeast part, like north of Cruden Bay. 7th oldest golf course in the world. It was like a stop on the way, and I showed up like I'd arranged to come. I showed up, and it was just dumping. There was not one single soul out on the golf course. And there's one car when I pulled in. I still showed up, and they were like, "Yeah, you're welcome to kind of tour the clubhouse if you'd like." And I was like, "I mean, is it cool if I go play? Like, I know this is crazy, but can I just go play?" They're like, I mean, yeah, if you want to, sure." I was hitting drivers from like 180. It was a true deluge, and at one point it's like the only photo I have from that golf course is that day wearing whatever that selfie I took there, and that was a fun memory I had. I'm glad I toughed it out because that was a really freaking awesome place. So
I had a day at Bandon Dunes, Pacific Dunes in specific, where the caddies said, I don't think we've ever seen it blow this hard. Like there were gusts of like 70 miles an hour. And I think I remember I hit a 6-iron directly into the gale, absolutely flushed it, and it went like 96 yards. It was awesome. Truly just absolutely soaked. Like your raincoat is complete, your rain gear is completely soaked. Peel it all off, put a second rain gear on, like halfway through, get completely soaked, peel that off, take a hot shower.
Well, I had a question for you guys that I wanted to pose, which was, what is your favorite rainy golf hack, or did you see anything out there today from caddies that you want to steal? So 2-part. You cannot answer both or either.
Well, I know the only reason you're asking this question is so you can talk about your rain pants maneuver.
No, but that's a great call. I have a different hack, but that's a great hack. Would you like to share it with the people?
No, please.
Well, you basically just wear boxers under your rain pants, and that way you don't get hot and steamy. You don't have to wear a second pair of pants, if it's just rain. Now, if it's cold, that might be a problem. This is Ballybunny. It wasn't cold. It was just like 50-mile-an-hour winds.
This was a literal hurricane that was on its way into town. And yeah, we played the Cashin course. This video is Neil trying to hit a wedge 195 yards, I think, on that one par 3. Dude, I don't like moves to steal. I guess playing in the rain in general just has to come with a true like. I get lost when I'm in the middle, when I'm like, dude, it's kind of rainy. Like, is this a rain round or is it not? And if it's a full rain round, I can rain glove it and I can bunt the ball around and do totally fine. When I get caught in the middle, that's the problem. And I just can't imagine playing at 7,500 yards though, in what they had today, because you're not getting that ball to apex in that. I don't know about Abraham Ancer's move of putting the beanie on underneath the hat, but I'm guessing that's a sponsor reason that happened.
You know, anything you got to do. I was also curious. A lot of guys wearing beanies out there. When those get soaked, I almost think you're going to get even colder.
Yeah.
The one move I saw out there, the reason I asked the question, Deej, was I saw Brooks's caddy. That's Ricky, I believe. He's been in the news. He had the towel tucked inside. Like 3 pullover. You know, his bib plus the pullover. And that is the key. It's what is really demoralizing is when the towels get soaked. And then you're like, oh my God, like our walls have come down. Like we're totally flooded. You have no hope when you have no dry towels. That's when it gets really bleak for me.
Oh, all right. Well, I think that's going to wrap our Saturday night rain delay show. Thank you to Scott Van Pelt, Wright Thompson, Iona Stephen, High Noon, Roback, AG1 Athletic Greens, Kevin Van Valkenburg, Neil Schuster, Cody McBride, DJ Piehowski, all of the listeners, all of the commenters, everyone involved with the show. Greatly appreciate it. Sunday night.
And thank you, Solly. Thank you for all you do for the game.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I really appreciate that. We'll recap the 2023. Hopefully it ends tomorrow. It looks like we're probably good with weather for tomorrow, and we'll easily finish the Masters tomorrow night. But we'll leave you with this. Of course, Michael Irvin said, man, when we played in that cold weather, we was cold. We thank everyone for tuning in. We'll see you back here for another live show on Sunday night. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.